Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm joined by Paul Bottomley, who's been in an estate agency for over 20 years now. And he, after selling up his huge, massive estate agency, decided to start again fresh with a EweMove franchise. Thank you for joining me today, Paul. What I want to do is find out your story as an estate agent, your hopes, your fears, your dreams, your frustrations, which led you up to a point a couple of years ago after having a huge branch, a couple of branches, setting it all up and starting all again. So what I'd like to do is firstly say thank you for joining me today. When did you become an estate agent?
I became an estate agent in 1998 after being a holiday rep in Spain for 2 or 3 years.
Okay. And what attracted you to estate agency?
It was something at the time that I never really wanted. I didn't set my heart on becoming.
Or did you fall into it? Like
Yeah. Well, I was, when I was a holiday rep for a few years. Part of that is selling trips, and it was something that I didn't know I was quite good at, but I was. And so when I came back and thought, well, I better get a proper job, it was like, well, there was an advertisement in the I think it was in a local newspaper for a sales negotiator position at Whitegates in my town, where I actually then bought that franchise. So I started there, and then
Where was that?
in Dewsbury,
Okay,
just
yeah.
outside Leeds.
Yeah, nice part of the world. Nice part of the world.
Yeah,
Good stuff. So you started, when was it? 98, you said?
98. Yeah.
Okay. So the housing market was still a little bit in the doldrums.
Yep.
Okay. And then a couple of years later, things started to take off. What were you? Did you go in at like T-boy, neg?
Yeah, I went in as a neg, and then I went and then got. I was there as a neg for maybe about a year, and then a valuer position came up in that estate agency. So the manager at the time, who's actually a friend of mine now, decided to give me the opportunity of going out and valuing.
Can you remember your first
Yeah.
valuation?
Yeah, I can. I can remember my first valuation, my first take on, and he sent me out to this absolute hovel of a house, and I went out nervous. I remember coming back into the shop, and I got the instruction, and I was buzzing. And he said, "Oh, fantastic!" He said, "How much have you put this on the market for? This will give you an idea how long ago this was." I said, "I've turned it on." I said, 31,000. I said, and he laughed, and I said, "Why?" I said, "It's great." He said, "Did you do your research before you went out?" And I said, "Well, obviously at that time there wasn't, you couldn't go on the internet." And he said, "All right." He said, "Well, if you'd added on," he says, "you'll have seen we've sold 2 previously down the road in the last sort of few months, and they've gone for 20 and 22. So no wonder he signed up with you at £31,000." Which sort of brought me from there back down to there, no, it was a semi-joking sort of. But yeah, I always.
Did you get it away in the end?
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. I can't remember. We might have had to reduce it about 6 times probably before.
Oh, that was the done thing in the late 90s, though, wasn't it? So after learning the power of comparables and and EweMove and looking at comps, early 2000s, were you really enjoying yourself?
It was very much a massive learning experience, because I'd never managed a member of staff before. I was 26. I said, I've been only in the game. I took the franchise, the Whitegates franchise, in 2001.
So you haven't been there that long?
No, I've been there. I've been in Whitegates for 3 years. I had gone from being a valuer at this Dewsbury office, and then I got moved to Huddersfield, which was a bigger office, and valued there for about 18 months. And then Legal & General then sold the whole franchise in effect in 2001. And I can remember at the time, my boss at the time of where I was at Huddersfield pulled me into the office and said, "Look, Paul, there's 2 valuers in this office." It was quite a big office. He said, "I'm only going to keep one. I'm just giving you a heads up, it's going to be the other guy." I said,
"Was that deserved?"
Yeah, he was. He's actually one of my best man at the wedding. He's a really good friend, and he was more experienced, and I totally understood why he would want to keep him. And I thought, "Oh right, okay, I've got that job." And then a guy, Steve Kirk, one of the directors at the time, just rang me and said, "Why don't you go and take Dewsbury?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, why do you go and buy Dewsbury?" I said, "Well, own it." I said, yeah. He said, never even, I've only been in the game a few years. So I managed to raise the 10 grand it was at the time for the franchise fee.
Didn't you have any fears?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were they?
My daughter had just been born 5 months before I took the franchise. Me and my wife, we bought our first house. So I was giving up an income, in effect, to actually buy a franchise with a daughter that's literally brand newborn. Never having managed anybody.
And how did that make you feel?
I was nervous, excited at the same point. I didn't know if I knew I could do estate agent. I knew I had a bit of talent in that, but I had no idea what an accountant was, what they did. Just literally going into it totally blind, in effect. So yeah, it was worrying. But I'm one of these people where I think I'd rather do something and fail, and then if it fails, you go, I tried it, it didn't work out, rather than say no and go to something else employed, and always look back and think, what if?
Regret.
Yeah.
So early 2000s, rocking and rolling, enjoying it.
Yep.
Things worked really well, did it?
Yeah. I remember through the early 2000s, the market was getting better every year.
It was. Yeah.
I took the plunge. One of the biggest decisions I made at the time was the franchise came with a handful of rental properties, and the neighbouring office in Cleckheaton that had been sold, and they needed Legal and General at the time needed an office to take on Cleckheaton's rentals, and there was about 20, 25. What's a rental? Didn't do rentals. And I said, right, okay, well, I'll take them. And I took a decision to employ a member of staff who was actually working at head office at the time to do the rentals. And at the time, that was a big decision because by the time we moved through to 2008-9 with the crash, we'd built the portfolio probably at that time to maybe 250, something along those sorts of levels, which was, so that decision to do rentals back then, when all the corporates were just getting into it in 07, 08, when the crash was happening, was a big plus.
How was the crash, 07, 08 crash for you?
It was, the worry was in effect, back then the tap literally turned off. It wasn't a general over maybe a few years, so the tap went off, 50, the sales were down 50%. Luckily the rentals paid the majority of the bills and the staff, so it was I always tried to work on rentals, paying your bills as much as you possibly can, and then your sales is profit. So at least I could keep the doors open. Just the profit was obviously less.
Was it really a bad time for you? Dark days for you?
Yeah, I give you one specific example of I can remember now going into the petrol station to put some petrol in the car in Dewsbury, and at the time I remember the business card and putting it in to pay for the petrol, and the guy saying to me, "Oh, sorry, your card's failed." I thought, well, that's strange, so I gave him the card and got back into the office and, why is that card? Check the bank account. I've never had an overdraft or anything like that, and the bank account was minus 75 quid, and I suddenly thought, I've run out of cash. And luckily that was the lowest point on the financial side, so after that things changed, but it always resonated with me, cash is king. So I've always made sure, and I would say to any business owner, always have the cash in the bank, because when things turn the other way, and I think I've seen so many businesses end up failing because people have taken cash out and done various things or whatever because times are good, and then they've run out of cash.
So you got through 2008, 2009, and then a few years later you went and bought a second Whitegates franchise.
Yeah, in 2013. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a neighbouring office which became available. I still own that now, so that one, I didn't sell that one. So yeah,
Because I mean, I used to be head of national sales for Belvoir, and the amount of times I've seen someone buy a second office, and actually the first one falters,
Agreed.
and the second one,
Yeah.
so you actually have from one great one to
Yep.
2 bags of spanners.
I think the key with it is never ignore the golden goose. But I always went into it. Where I think people make a mistake is that they try and get multiple offices and manage them all. You have to, in effect, in my opinion, get a good manager in your second office. You carry on looking after your first office. Always accept that they're never going to quite do what you want them to do, and accept that moving forward.
Was that hard to accept that someone couldn't be as good as you?
Yeah, a little bit. Like the guy who I brought in fairness, and who's still there now, he was with me in the Dewsbury office before I sold it, so I trained him.
So he was almost like a mini me then, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he was somebody, he was a senior neg in the office, and I saw somebody who was that could do with an opportunity. It would be a good valuer, because I always believe, and always do to this day, that it's a people person game. So if you come across well, you can have the best marketing behind you, you can have the best everything. If you come across as a bit of an idiot, then you're never going to do it. Equally, you can not have the greatest thing behind you, but if you're a great person, come across well, because people buy people, and he was very much that type of person.
And what advice would you give to people in terms, especially those who are perfectionists? Most estate agency bosses either tend to be perfectionists or fear being taken advantage of by others. They kind of fall into two camps. What advice would you give to people when trying to promote someone and them not actually doing a good enough job, or as good as you?
I think at the end of the day, you have to let them, in some respects, make their own mistakes. You can guide them. I'm very much with my member of staff in the other office. I'm very much towards saying to him, look, people buy you, so they don't buy me. I might be your boss, I might have trained you, might have done this. So I think you have to leave people to just get on with things the way they do, guide them in the way, just be careful of their figures and their stats and what they're trying to do.
But how does it make you feel that, they could be leaving money on the table or losing money, which if you went in there, you could sort out in the short term? That must be quite hard.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, I think us as estate agents are quite normally we feel that the public are fee orientated all the time, or we feel that sometimes we have to compete with the other agents that are on our street. And EweMove, just moving forward, but EweMove is an example of we get better fees. I get better fees as a EweMove guy than what my Whitegate's office in Murfield gets. And when I tell him that, and bear in mind I have no office, I've not as much presence in the town that we are in Murfield, we're market leaders. So we should be getting the best fees because we're market leaders. And when I sit him down and show him my average fee and what his average fee, his average fee isn't bad, but I said, never look at it from a point of view of saying, well, I can't charge that bit more because I'm charging it and I'm not market leader in my town. I don't have an office. There's independent agents that, I've been going 2 years in my town. They've been going there 100 years.
So what made you want to sell one of your Golden Goose Dewsbury Whitegates and go and set up a cartoon character estate agency with a funny little sheet with pretty colours?
Yeah.
Nice colours, by the way. I like the green and the pink.
Yeah.
They do work well together. I'm into my colour wheel.
Quite simply, it was a combination of factors for me. So I'd been in Dewsbury since '98, barring the.
How old are you now? If you don't mind me saying?
I'm 46.
Okay. Were you getting bored of estate agency?
No, I was getting bored of doing the rubbish that goes with managing 9 or 10 staff, and I'd gone away from doing the bits that I enjoy doing the most.
So you almost felt you weren't, you were just you were a manager of something. You weren't back to the old estate agency, the passion, the what you were when you were the sales rep and the out with the people. When did it click? When did you say, I need to do something different?
I probably knew I needed to change probably roughly 2 years prior, 18 months, 2 year prior to actually selling the business, which was, when did I sell it now? It was 3 years in February. So probably 4 or 5 years ago. Myself and my wife, we have 2 younger children, well, 10 and 8. So the fact of 45-minute journey into work, 45-minute back, picking them up from after school club. So all that sort of, we need to be out, one of us needs to be out, because she works in the business as well as my wife. So one of us has to go in and get the kids. And so a little bit of that drain where with, I'm sure you come on to EweMove, but with EweMove, it's one of the benefits is getting back to the ground, onto the ground really, and doing what you go back to invest, but also the flexibility.
Yeah, but the flexibility and picking your kids up isn't going to make you sell your golden cow. There must have been something in your heart that you think, I'm bored.
No, I think from a business owner point of view, you always have to have. It's like a football team selling the player. There's always a price that maybe thinks, now might be the right time. And without going into too much detail, it was more the demographic of the area that I was in and operating within was quite tough and challenging. And an opportunity came where I'd been thinking about EweMove. I knew the former owners of EweMove very well. So it was in the back of my head. I was intrigued by it. The opportunity comes along for somebody to take over that business.
This is your Dewsbury office?
Yeah, this is Dewsbury.
So you basically, someone approached you saying, would you want to be selling? And because you'd been having this niggle in your head, an itch that wanted scratching, you thought to yourself,
now might be a good time. I was 43 then or whatever. Okay. And I'm thinking, do you know what? Now might be a good time for a different challenge.
How did your wife feel about selling the golden cow, the golden goose?
Well, she was also, because if we sold, the way we were going to operate and the more flexibility we were going to have in our balance between home and work life was going to be better. Now she still works within the business on the Whitegate side. She runs the property management for the Whitegates office, but she does it from home.
For your Dewsbury office?
No, the Murfield office.
The Murfield office.
Yeah, so the Murfield office I still own, still have it now. The Dewsbury is what I sold. So we came away from Dewsbury. We still have Murfield, still have it to this day. So she now looks after that.
So she must be the detail-orientated one of the family, and you're more of the people person.
Yeah, all you can say is she's done lettings for the last 12 years, and you've got to be a certain type of person.
Wouldn't let you anywhere near her.
No, she wouldn't let me anywhere near. She will say to me, even to this day, you are not going to do a final inspection because
you'll end up talking to the landlord.
Yeah, exactly. Or you won't. I know how you look after what you do in the house, so you're not going to go and do a rental final inspection and think that you're going to do a good job with that. So she's a bit like a dog with a bone. She'll upset a few people, but I think I've learned on rentals, they're a certain breed.
Okay, so starting a EweMove franchise, the issue of going from employed to self-employed wasn't the issue.
No.
The issue was that you wanted a different I hate the phrase work-life balance, but you just wanted a different life.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That wasn't the main reason, the whole work-life balance. It played a part, but it was more to go back to me where I wasn't relying on staff to do things a certain way.
Are you happier as an estate agent now because you've gone right back to the coalface?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Because the part that I hated of growing a business and running a business was I'm not an accountant. I haven't got a degree in how to run a business successfully. Blah blah blah. In essential, I'm a decent estate agent. So all that side of it a little bit of managing staff, even just keeping staff, which luckily we did quite well over the years, but recruiting staff, all the other bits and pieces that go with it, that when your business grows, you have to play more of a role within, then becomes more of a burden where you're not enjoying it.
Are you happier as a man and as a family man, because you've now relinquished that macro?
Yes, I am. Although probably what I didn't realise would be that it would probably fair to say I am. Well, it's fair to say I'm busier, working longer.
Yeah, but are you happier?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I'm doing what I enjoy doing.
Which is getting out there, seeing the punters, putting the house on the market, because the EweMove model is very what we call a personal agent, where you're expected to do everything.
Absolutely.
Which is all the viewings,
Yep.
negotiating the offer.
Yep.
You don't have negs or anything like that.
No.
Do you like the old days of getting your hands mucky and
Absolutely.
negging and?
It's great. It's great because that is what people, the public that are out there, they buy. This is what it comes back to his personal agent side. They buy you as a person. So,
But that means that you can only grow the business so much.
yeah.
You know, you said to me that that your existing Murfield office has a higher market share.
Yep.
But but I bet you pound to a penny, you're probably earning more
Correct.
through your one, because do you have any staff?
EweMove?
Yeah.
No.
So you're earning more by yourself than a branch, a Whitegates branch that you own, which has got how many properties under management?
Not 80 odd.
Okay, and then the estate agency.
Yeah, quite a strong estate agency.
Is that amazing that you're earning more for yourself and you're happier?
Yeah, absolutely. I would caveat that with the point of saying that from a business, I have a manager in there, so if I didn't do EweMove, I might be doing what he does in Murfield. So you have to have that.
Why don't you sell Murfield? Or is there a thing in there that the wife has got the job with the management?
Yeah, I think part of it, well, certainly at the start, and to this end now, is that I didn't know how EweMove was going to go. Okay. So at the end of the day, I would have always had an existing agency.
I mean,
to fall back on.
what's the future look like in the next few years for you?
For me or for a estate agency?
You and estate agency.
For me, for the next few years, will be a scenario or a case of what I'd like to do is to grow to a point where I'm not mega interested in becoming this huge, great big, big giants. But at the same point, I would like to bring somebody else on board to take another territory on, certainly. But I'm very, very much towards it needs to be me, and I'm very much towards if it doesn't become you, it becomes somebody else, then it's never going to quite go as well. Because I believe nobody cares as much as what you do. Might be wrong that, and maybe that's the wrong way to think.
Well,
but
it's
that's
your journey. How can you expect someone to be as passionate and as driven on your path?
Yeah.
And your why is that you want to earn you love estate agency, you love people, you want to earn a decent amount of money, yet at the same time you still want the flexibility of being able to pick your kids up from school and be at the recitals and whatever kids do. And football.
Yeah, I think one thing with estate agency, and I feel very, very lucky from the point of I've never, since I started in the estate agency, certainly started running my own business, I've never ever got up in the morning and thought, oh God, I've got to go to work. And I feel very fortunate that I think once you're in agency, you enjoy it.
And you said that you are getting a much higher fee. Do you genuinely believe that people will pay top dollars, even though you have no branch and you see little sheep?
I think.
Do you think it's an advantage?
What, having
the logo?
The logo. I think I think it's very striking, and I think it differentiates you from the crowd. Do I think you can get huge amounts of money? So for example, I'm based in the north of England. I'm based in where average fees are not where they are down south. So at the end of the day, can I go in and charge stupid amounts more than what the local high street reputable agent is? My personal thought is no. I think it can be difficult, and I've always believed, contrary to some commentators with an agency, where I think you can go in and put a great big fee on your head and say I'm the best in the world. You're going to pay 2%. You're going to pay this, that, and the other. You're going to pay £1,000, £1,500 more than the agent down the street. It's quite arrogant sometimes, and I think you've got to be very, very careful because boards breed boards, and I think if you don't have stock out there and you don't have those, then it's very, very difficult.
But still, even if you're a couple of £100 more than everyone else, you're still a couple of £100 more than everyone else.
Yeah, but it depends on the mindset. If you believe that everybody that you go in front of is going to choose their estate agent based upon the fee that they've put in front of them, and if you can't differentiate yourself from the others, then you will lose out.
And have you taken your learnings from your EweMove franchise and given them to your Whitegates office?
I have. I wouldn't say I've done it hugely successfully. Part of my issue or problem that I have at the moment is that my EweMove side has meant that I can't give as much time as what I really should do to that office. And if my manager was sat here, he would say the same. He gets somewhat, I'd not say gets left, because from a business owner's point of view, if he's doing the business, if he's selling the houses and stuff, yes, would I change certain things? Yes, I would, and I'd love to bring him into the inner bubble, in effect, to say, look, this is what you can do if you have that. So you try, but then again, he would equally turn around and say, yes, boss, but if you're looking at my figures and saying, well, how come you've only listed 4 houses this week? Why haven't you put 10 on the market this week? And he might turn around and say, well, boss, you told me to go and charge, up here on the fees, and I've struggled with it because, blah, blah, blah. So I think that there's a balance. There's a balance to be had.
Thank you for your time today. I just want you to confirm, have you or anyone from EweMove paid me to sit on this Watkin sofa?
No.
I do these videos because I'm fascinated by the self-employed model, and the EweMove franchise model is a different type of self-employed model. I think it's a fantastic model that people should seriously consider, although it's not for everyone, is it?
No, not at all. No.
I would say probably 8 out of 10 estate agents, it isn't for them, but the 2 out of 10 that do have that drive, that passion, that great mindset, it is a different way, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think from coming from somebody who's been on the high street, who's experienced the high street side of things, you've got to have, like you said, Chris, you've got to have that drive, you've got to have that passion, you've got to work hard. I work longer hours now, evenings doing appointments then, Sundays when agents are shut, etc. But it's a great model. The backup is there, and you can make money off the back of it. Absolutely.
Thank you for your time today, Paul.
No worries.